Okay, so now we're into ZBrush here, and I simply just imported my objects that I've exported out of Maya into ZBrush, and we're just gonna try and play around with the shape here and see if we can't come up with something that's gonna be unique and really work with the TF2 direction, and see if we can't make something that's at least gonna look fairly decent. I am looking a little bit at a concept on the my other screen, but for the most part this is just mainly going to go ahead and be just general sculpting here, and I tend to just use the standard brush, the smooth brush, the Damien standard brush, the clay strokes, a little bit of the inflate and pinch brushes as well. I mean, there's really no sort of direction that I can honestly give you here in terms of sculpting out, because I'm really just doing this on feel. There's no real uniform way to say sculpt here, so you just have to go into ZBrush and just try and play around and try and make something that at least works, and also at least looks decent. And here you can see where I'm just trying to fill in some shapes and trying to block out at least the bottom portion of the hat here. I'm just trying to get all these sort of folds and creases in the hat at least blocked out correctly here. Just trying to concept out in my mind what is looking good and what's going to work. A lot of this is definitely freeform sculpting, and it's definitely a lot of just concepting and trying to just block out what seems to work here. I'm really not trying to stay specific with inside a single concept. I'm trying to use a bunch of different shapes at the moment, and really just trying to mash a lot of ideas just into one. But like I said, just play around with it, try and have fun with it. Also, don't really limit yourself to one sort of specific design. Just try things that you think work. Sometimes they do work, and sometimes they don't work. I mean, you just have to. Here you can see where I'm trying to basically block in the detail for what would be the Team Fortress 2 logo on the top of the hat here, to try to mix that into the concept as well. I mean, I know we're going to be playing Team Fortress 2, and everybody know that it's going to be a hat for Team Fortress 2. But hey, why not try and throw the actual TF2 logo in there, and see if that's going to work, and try and be happy with that as well. I'm just trying some strokes here around the main body portion of the hat here to see if this is going to be something that's really going to work here. Now I'm just trying to go ahead and add a little bit of extra detail there around the base, a little bit of the middle part of the hat, so I can separate, what are going to be the different colors for the portion of the hat here, and trying to know, where the colors are basically going to be placed. I'll definitely be using the move brush here to really go ahead and refine the shape and to make it a little more stylized and toony in terms of the actual silhouette of the model. You really don't want to, limit yourself in terms of basically having one sort of specific design. You really want to have a bunch of different shapes in here and a bunch of different variations to the mesh, because in the end it is a cartoony game and a very, very stylized game, so you really want to sort of give it that toonish stylized look. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a realistic toon world. It's definitely a very, very specific style, and a very unique style to its own, and it's just one of those games where you really just have to try sculpting and really just try to figure out what works for the game, what's going to look good in the game. One thing may work and something else may not work, which also would state that you have to try a bunch of different designs. If one design doesn't work, then that's okay, and there's really no problem with that. You should really, in the end, block out a bunch of different concepts to begin with anyway, because one, like I said, one may work, one may not work, and that's just the way it is. Here you can see I'm using the pinch brush to try and refine that shape just a little bit more. I'm going to take my Damien Standard brush here to try and add a little bit more detail on the brim of the hat. And we'll go ahead here and solo the model out so that I can focus primarily on the hat itself. Because, we generally have the shape that's going to fit the head, but we want to be able to focus specifically and primarily on the hat so that we can really capture in some of those extra details. So come in here to the symmetry tool and just turn off our radial symmetry. Just making sure that we're not, sculpting completely around the model. Try and pinch these areas up as well, just so that we can sort of have what it's going to be looking like, folded cloth basically. Smooth those out a little bit. Valve has really done an excellent job in terms of designing their game. It's definitely a very, very popular game. Probably one of the most popular games that I've seen in, say, the last 10 years. Almost everybody that you talk to, at least that's a gamer, and probably has played the game at least one time. And I think that would really go with the popularity of the game. And that's very unique, because a lot of games you don't really see people that you wouldn't necessarily think would be playing TF, or would really be into cartoony style shooters, but almost everybody that I would either game with or talk to that it's at least one time have played TF, and I would have to congratulate Valve on that. I mean, it really is a fun game to turn around and play. So we'll come here to the top and try and refine the shape on our what would be our TF logo for the top of our hat here. I'm not necessarily going to render out our game mesh inside of V-Ray, simply because there's really no need for me to go ahead and do that. I may eventually do that for our ad for the tutorial, but generally I'm probably just going to be posting an in-game screenshot of our model, and we'll try and pinch up the edges here for the edge of our TF logo on the top of our hat here. And you can see where this is really starting to come along pretty nice, and it's just really starting to look very much like a TF2 style hat. Sniper in general probably wouldn't be wearing something along these lines, but it's like I said, if you make something that looks cool and looks funny, generally it'll fit within pretty much on any of the characters inside of TF2, which is generally something that you don't necessarily see. Designing one thing to fit on a specific character is one thing, but you really want to try and design something that's going to basically fit on all the characters. That way you give Valve the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, maybe this is going to work for this class, or this is going to work for that class. And you really want to be able to open doors and say, hey, I would like to have this hat actually fit on all characters in the game. Right now, adding these star alphas to our mesh, this is starting to look sort of like the Apollo Creed hat from Rocky 4, which I've probably watched too many Rocky movies, or the Rocky movies way too many times. But you know what? It is what it is. It's, if it looks funny, then general rule of thumb is say, hey, it works. If it makes you laugh, then it's good. You're sort of doing your job. So I'm really starting to like this design now, and I'm just trying to refine the shape at least a little bit more here. I'm trying to pinch up the back here just so that we can make sure that we have a clean normal map in the end. And that's the ultimate goal here, is we want to be able to make sure that we're going to have a sculpt that's going to give us the ability to have a normal map that's really going to be clean. There really isn't going to be any tessellation and sort of graphical errors on the normal map. We don't want to have anything that's really sort of going to be like pushed out of place or really awful in terms of artifacting or anything. And so I'm just trying to refine some of the details here, since I generally have the shape that I actually want here. And we'll try and add a little bit of foldage to the, I guess what would be the blue part of the model here, of what I'm thinking. And I think this would actually fit probably a little bit better on the Demo Man than it would the Sniper. But who knows? In the end, Valve may decide to do one thing, or they may decide to end up not putting it in the game at all, and that's just something that you have to be willing to accept. If your model doesn't get accepted, there really are no bases for it other than maybe the model just isn't their direction, and that's okay. It really is a crapshoot, and you just sort of have to accept that. Don't really get discouraged. Just push on through that, and try to design something else later on that it's better in terms of design and overall look and feel. And if it gets in, it gets in. But generally, you just want to have fun with it, and if you're able to upload it to the Steam Workshop and people enjoy your hat, or enjoy your miscellaneous item, or enjoy your weapon, then usually Valve's pretty good about putting those items actually into the game. If you take a look at the Steam Workshop, there's actually a lot of items in there with a lot of views that haven't gotten the game, and I'm not exactly 100% sure why that is, but you know, sometimes they just don't fit the TF world or the TF art direction, and it's just, you know, the way it is. I wouldn't get discouraged on that. I would just, you know, try and make something that's in the end actually going to work. And now you can see where we are really coming along here, so I'm really trying to go ahead and refine my shape a lot more, trying to clean it up so that we don't really so I really make sure that I'm not going to have any unnecessary artifacting in our normal map, and so that our shape is really going to be crisp and fairly unique in terms of design. This hat really wants to, you know, say, hey, you know, it's sort of really like the Apollo Creed hat, so it's starting to look pretty good and nice. And I think this design is really going to work in terms of, you know, maybe people will like it or enjoy it, and, you know, hopefully it'll go into the game. I'm not 100% sure if I'll actually, you know, go ahead and submit it, but you know, the main focus of this tutorial is to really teach you guys how to go ahead and upload models the way that Valve would want them to actually be placed in the workshop. I mean, they do say that they accept OBJs and stuff like that, but you really want to send them, you know, compiled models. This way it's going to be easier for them to go ahead and test those models and test those designs in the game. And here you can see I'm using the move brush to really refine my shape a little bit more here. That didn't necessarily work, so I had to step back a few steps. This is really starting to look, you know, fairly decent here. So maybe we can push this out to the side a little bit here. Probably bring this down a little bit more. And you can really see where that's starting to add sort of a lot of attitude to the hat. And just like I said, you have to try a couple things, you know, if they work, they work. If not, you know, just try something else. This really is Apollo Creed from Rocky IV. So let's go ahead here and try and finish out our details on the hat by adding in some more detail here in the front. Just using our Damien standard brush. Right now this is a very generally decent looking hat. Like I said, it's just easier to concept your ideas out inside of ZBrush rather than, you know, working from a specific design. You know, you really want to have that creative freedom in terms of freestyle art to really basically do what you want. And that's where, you know, TF is really nice. Almost anything that's cartoony and has a stylized feel to it will work. Here I'm just trying to pinch up the top of the hat here, just so that we can have a more refined shape. And this is looking really nice right now. And we'll go ahead and just polish off the top of the hat here. and that's actually looking, real nice. So we'll go ahead here and do a turnaround just to make sure that our hat looks, fairly good. And that's pretty much the end of our sculpting. So come back in the next lesson and we'll go ahead and do the retopology for the model.